It's the all-wheel drive event at Lithia Ford of Boise. From hunting trips to ski trips to Grandma's house. Nobody does AWD like LFB, Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
Eat Lux your way with the Lux Cravings boxes from Taco Bell. There's the classic $5 box, the indulgent $7 box, and a whole new obsession in the $9 box, the Flamin' Hot Grilled Cheese Burrito. Try the Lux Cravings boxes at Taco Bell today.
Find your sun with Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea. Made with real iced tea and real vodka. Cold, refreshing, and made for moments like these all year long. Let the good times cruise with Sun Cruiser.
The final buzzer is sounded on another night of Mountain West basketball, and it's time to break down the action with Tom Moser on another night in the Mountain West, presented by Circus Sports. Headed to Las Vegas for the Mountain West tournament in March? Make sure to stay at Circa Las Vegas and watch all the action at Stadium Swim, where the sports are on 365 days a year. Another night in the Mountain West has interviews, analysis, opinions after the final Mountain West basketball game of the day wraps up. All BNN broadcasts come from the Sun Cruiser Studios. Sunny days call for Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea, made with real iced tea and real vodka. It's refreshingly smooth and easy to drink. Crack open a Sun Cruiser and let the good times cruise. The title sponsor of Bronco Nation News is Lithia Ford of Boise. Check out our full inventory of vehicles online at lithiafordboise.com. Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho. Did your team just get a big win? Suffer a bad loss? Come discuss it with us. Send us a comment or question in the ICCU YouTube chat, or leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/BNN. Now let's go to the Sun Cruiser Studios and join Tom Moser for another night in the Mountain West on Bronco Nation News.
What's up, everybody? You heard the man. You're in the Sun Cruiser Studio here on another night in the Mountain West on Saturday, February the 14th, Valentine's Day. Let's give Sun Cruiser a shout. I'm sure some of you had your own drink of choice. Maybe not Sun Cruiser earlier. Should be Sun Cruiser right now. Go get yourself some. Support one of our sponsors. Also, down there at the bottom, you see it. I'm sure many of you already have. The subscriptions, little by little, they're growing. It's just wonderful. At Mountain West BNN. At Mountain West BNN. Appreciate all of those that come my way. Helps us out. Helps grow this thing. I mean, look, we're getting we're what, 3 weeks out, 3 weeks left of the regular season now, with Utah State and New Mexico not playing league games today. Everybody is now at 14, so we have 3 full weeks of games left, a midweek and a weekend for everybody. 6 more games get you to 20. 4th week from now will be conference tournament time. A lot to talk about today. We had 5 games. We had the Boise UNLV game last night. Talked plenty about that on last night's show. And then I guess we have 4 games, I believe, on Tuesday because we have a double dip late on Wednesday. So 4 games to talk about on Tuesday. We'll do that for a few minutes at the back end of the show. Of course, let's talk about what we watched today a little bit. Welcome all of you in here. Just a couple of you right now. Aztecs, yeah. That's what we're going to open with. What's up, Ewoke? Okay. Yeah, let's start with what we just watched. I guess what was 71-57 was the final. And really, with the exception of 4 minutes to start the second half, that was a pretty complete effort from the Aztecs. Really good effort. Richard will certainly talk about Gwath's smaller knee brace on him. Best he's looked all year on defense. Certainly moved well. 5 blocks. Nice job. Interior defense. I mean, look, the shooting, we all know he can stroke it, and quick release, keeps it high, smooth stroke. You could tell he's taken a million of those shots. I mean, when they weren't even close to missing, right? I mean, I don't even know that they barely even moved the net. Certainly didn't touch the rim. But if he's impacting the game like that and moving like that defensively, Pat, I don't think Penny Hardaway will be joining us. He will be a hot topic in a little bit, I guess, since that will be the second game we cover, and as the only 2 night games. And truth be told, before I get back to this late one here, I didn't see the 2 middle games, or really much of the early stuff. As I said last night, Valentine's Day, you got to put a little bit of a shift in, and the timing worked out because those games were not much to, I didn't anticipate them being good games. They didn't end up being good games. I watched the first half of the border war, didn't see the second half. I kind of got an idea of what took place. But yeah, we will spend most of our time on the 2 night games and then looking ahead. But look, it was a chalky day. All 5 teams that were favored won, and won pretty big. And so there was no real suspense going on. Nevada tried to make it interesting for a little bit there, which, they'll usually do under Alford. As I was saying, a pretty clean game from San Diego State. Once the second half kind of started and Nevada came out like gangbusters, I'm like, well, here we go again, because we've seen this a few times now from San Diego State. They don't come out of the locker room well, right? And it almost bit him in the butt against Boise. A couple of the other times, it didn't really matter as far as getting close to losing, but certainly against was it San Jose State, certainly Fresno State, certainly Wyoming, and there may have even been one other one in there. I can't remember right now off the top of my head, but games that ended up closer than they should have been. And that's an apropos subject for tonight when you look at what happened at the end of the Utah State game, okay? And, you guys, some of you are going to point out correctly that at times it seems like I talk out of both sides of my mouth, right? Because I'm gonna take a little bit of a harsher stance on what happened at the end of the Aggie game, right? But yet I'm criticizing the Aztecs here. But there's a difference, right? Like, I'm not saying that Bird needs to go in for a windmill dunk with 12 seconds left. What I'm saying is, from the 12-minute mark to the 5-minute mark, you can play a little bit harder and keep that working margin when everybody's still playing hard, right? You're in the last 30 seconds. That's completely different, all right? Like, is 2 points going to matter? It really shouldn't, okay? But it's the whole, just some vibe that they give off at times. Like, I've used the phrase before that they're too cool for school, and they don't really want to act like they're putting forth that effort against a team that they view as beneath them, okay? And I think that it's not a good it's not a good habit to have, right? And so my first thought as we start that second half is, well, here we go. But after that first 4 to 5 minutes, that was it, all right? Because as I tweeted out, so let's look at the point breakdown here. They end with 57. A few of those were in garbage time, but still they count. But 25 in the first half, 11 in the first, 3.5 minutes, as I sent out, 3.5 minutes of the second half. That gets you to 36. That means that in the last 15 to 16 minutes, 16 plus minutes, they scored 21 points. So, first half and last 16 minutes, incredible defense as a team, individually. Great job by the entire roster for San Diego State. So I think what you have to do then is you credit Nevada for coming out, maybe a couple tweaks from Alford, but you credit Nevada coming out ready to play in the second half. And maybe the Aztecs just needed a slight wake-up call there to kind of get them, all right, we got a game here. They're not going to fold and go away. And now we got to go back at it, right? Because remember, these games are 40 minutes. There's good players on both teams, most of the teams in our league, right? And so, you you're not just going to win every possession. And Nevada just happened to win a few possessions in a row. San Diego State got a little lazy. Nevada makes a couple shots. They outwork the Aztecs for a rebound or two. The Aztecs throw a ball away. Next thing you know, it's a 2-point game after being down by 11 at the half. So credit the other team sometimes, but good response there from San Diego State. And it was a lot of guys too. Let me just put this in here for a brief minute or two, and then I will get back to some of the comments. All right. Team-wise, I mean, they hold Nevada to 33% shooting, and it was like a torture chamber for large stretches of the first half, and then certainly in that 10-minute stretch in the middle of the second half, 17 for 52. You know, Nevada, again, they don't like to shoot a lot of threes. They shoot it at a high percentage, but they don't take a lot because it's not their strength, and they got forced into it tonight like San Diego State does to a lot of teams. They just do, okay? The Aztecs took a few too many for my liking, 25. Almost half their shots were threes. I don't think that's necessary. But anyway, 14 turnovers for Nevada. The rebounding was Nevada actually out-rebounded them 35-30. And they grabbed 15 offensive rebounds for Nevada. Now, that's got to be cleaned up if you're an Aztec fan. I didn't realize it was that high. I mean, Price worked hard in there. He had 10 boards, 17 and 10. It's weird. I mean, this team, Nevada, looks like they have two all-conference guys. I mean, clearly, they're not both going to be first teamers. But, man, Price and Camper are good players. Camper had 16 and 5. Price again was 17 and 10. Nobody else had more than 6, so they didn't get any help. BJ played well tonight with 14, 4 and 5, only 2 for 7 from 3, but he made a few big ones that kind of got the lead back and stretched it out. You know, it's funny, like Bird, I will say at least he didn't like try to do too much tonight. He only scored 4 points, but his contributions come like outside of the box score. Okay, he had 5 boards, which helps. His defense was better. I didn't notice any things that I would consider breakdowns today that cost his team a bucket. Right, Dixon Waters with 20, 7 for 14 shooting. Heidi 7 boards. Gwath 13 and 3, and again 5 blocks. Compton and Simmons were solid. No Harrington, so you know I don't know if we'll see him in the midweek or not, or if they'll hold him out for the weekend. Maybe they hold him out until next midweek, a week and a half from now. I think it's the 25th against Utah State in the game that's in all likelihood going to decide the regular season championship. So what this did here was this loss by Nevada bumps them down to 9 and 5, tied with GCU at 9 and 5. They have the tiebreaker and will have the tiebreaker against the Lopes because they don't play again, and they pulled that game out in Lawler a few weeks ago. New Mexico is sitting at 9 and 4, but we all know that they have games against those other top 3 teams, including 2 of them on the road. So Nevada's they kind of control their own destiny here to finish in the 3rd spot. They do. But you know who else kind of controls some destiny there? And you know, I said we laugh at them a lot is UNLV. They're sitting at 8 and 6, and they play UNLV. I'm sorry, they will host Nevada at the Thomas and Mack. Now, the home court isn't going to mean much there, but it's better than going to Lawler. That's where it matters, because when they went to Lawler a couple weeks ago, they had a huge crowd there, and it impacted the Rebels. And ever since then, the only loss for UNLV was that calamity against Fresno a week and a half ago. Otherwise, they would have ripped off 4 in a row. Now, are they beating San Diego State and Utah State? No, although they did beat the Aggies earlier. But they beat Grand Canyon. They won at Boise after being down by 23. They're playing better basketball. And at 8 and 6, they definitely have tough games left. Don't get me wrong, okay? I still think it's likely that they finish 11 and 9. They could finish anywhere from 5th to like 8th, to be honest with you, okay? But they're playing much better, and Gibbs Lawhorn, without a doubt, is a first-team all-conference guy. He's out of his mind right now, okay? And if he continues at this pace, they'll be in almost every game. Like, yeah, they'll be up against it when they go to Viejas, right? They wasn't particularly close for 40 minutes when they play the Aztecs at home. Now they're going to have to go to Viejas. I think they're up against it there. And of course, Utah State's going to be spitting mad when they have to go to Thomas and Mack because they already lost to them. So, you know, they're going to have their work cut out for them to win those 2 games. But the way that Gibbs Lawhorn is playing, he's a problem against anybody. So, yeah, the Aztecs are going to lock him down and try and whatever. And I don't expect him to win that game. But UNLV will have a say here in what's going on. I wanted to get these stats. I don't want to leave them on there for that long. I'm half asleep. Anyway, yeah, I know, Jazz. I know New Mexico's 10-4. And so they obviously are in the driver's seat for third place. But if Nevada wins at home against them, then all bets are off. All right, all bets are off. And to be honest with you, you'll probably, it doesn't mean they're going to win, but you're going to find Nevada a favorite in that game, both by Ken Palm and by the sports books. Like, Nevada's going to be favored in that game against New Mexico in all likelihood. Okay. I'd be surprised if they're not. Now, that doesn't mean they win the game. It just means that, it's a tough task for the Lobos to get it done. And if they lose that game, there's no guarantee that they're the third seed. Okay, now, does a third seed really mean anything different than a 4 seed? Probably not, right? I mean, maybe a slightly better quarterfinal matchup. You're still getting a bye. You're still going to have to beat somebody good in the semifinals, and you're going to have to beat somebody with a pulse in the quarterfinals. And maybe your matchup's even better depending on who you're playing, where you're slotted in. So there's no guarantee that it's better to beat a 3 than a 4. And you obviously don't want to slip to the 5, because even though you get to have a scrimmage against Air Force, you still have to play that game, and you'd rather not do that, okay? But New Mexico has the tiebreaker over Grand Canyon. I think it would take a lot for them to slip below the 4 seed, okay? It would take a lot. So they're probably almost locked in, even if they lose a couple more games, because Grand Canyon still has to remember, they still have to go to Utah State and San Diego State too. So I'd be stunned if New Mexico falls below the 4 seed, but I could see Nevada stealing that if they can beat the Lobos at home. Anyway, back to wrap this one up here for a little bit. So I was impressed with what I saw then down the stretch from San Diego State. Good defense. They made it difficult on, everybody. As I said, Camper and Price scored half of their points. They didn't get much from anybody else. Yeah, I see a comment here that I wanted to talk about. Matt, I had said I thought Simmons was really good. And obviously, Guath's impact on the game. Yeah, blocks aside, he deters people from coming to the rim, and he's his length and he's an imposing figure. But yeah, Simmons was really good today, and so he played well in a non-con against the lesser opponents. I don't want to say he struggled, but he was just kind of there early on in conference play, and now he's picked it up a little bit. He's a strong dude for being a freshman. He has the potential to make plays, and frankly, I'd rather have him out there. I know some of the guys play different positions, but I'd certainly rather have him out there than Odin, and probably even Newman too, even though I know they play different positions. I'd rather have Simmons out there. Obviously in 3 or 4 days or a week, whenever it is that Harrington comes back, that's one more body for minutes in the backcourt. But, I like what Simmons brings to the floor. Let's see what else, what I missed on here. Yeah, obviously, great depth. And yeah, when Harrington comes back, obviously, Aggie reposting the stream. Thank you. Yeah, we're going to talk about the Utah State thing in a minute, Whiskers. Nevada hit the boards to start the half. Yeah, they did. And so again, that's one of the, that's an emphasis. You can tell what they emphasize at halftime, right? So for some teams, it's let's pound it inside. For some teams, it's let's attack the basket. For some teams, it's let's get on the glass. Nevada. So when you're struggling for offense in the half court, what do I always say? There's 2 ways to supplement your offense when you're struggling in the half court. And part of it is Nevada's not a great half court offensive team to begin with, but it's certainly no picnic when you go up against a defensive team like San Diego State. But there's 2 ways you can fix or help add to that is through transition, which wasn't going to work much tonight against San Diego State at home, or on the offensive glass. And the Aztecs have shown a little vulnerability to that throughout, conference play here and there. Not every night, but sometimes they have. Okay. Yeah, I get. Well, if they acknowledge it, though, Miguel, why don't they fix it? Yeah, exactly. They acknowledge that they start off slow and they don't play well with big leads. Well, let's fix it. Again, it wasn't a massive issue tonight, and I would tend in this instance to dole out more of the credit to Nevada than the blame to San Diego State, okay? They clearly didn't come out like a house on fire in the second half the way Nevada did, but it didn't Dutcher called a timeout, and after that, it was pretty much rectified. So, Nathaniel, find somebody who would take over 2 conference wins for Air Force, and I'm going to try and sell them some land. I don't know if they can keep 2 games within 10 points the rest of the regular. I mean, they only have 6 games left. I'm not going to pull their schedule up, but man, like they're losing put it this way, because I'm not going to talk about this game. They lost by 30 tonight, and Heidbreiter didn't even play for Fresno. And Douglas, their second best shooter, and scored. And well, maybe not second best scorer, but like one of their pure shooters, he didn't even play. So, because Wahlberg knew, like Wahlberg's been good with that. He sat Collins when they went to the pit and when they went to Viejas because he knew they had no shot in those games, right? And he sat Heidbreiter and Douglas today. Now, Heidbreiter got banged up at the end of the game in the midweek, but he sits those guys today. Maybe they're legit banged up. I believe they are, but he's not going to rush him and play him today because he could just take his managers probably and play this game to a draw against Air Force today. So unfortunately, Air Force has a better chance of, I don't know. Okay, they're not winning 2 games. They won't win 2 games over the next 2 conference seasons. Yeah, I agree. You got to fix the boards, no doubt. The stat site, Nathaniel, is Stat Broadcast, and unfortunately, so statbroadcast.com, STAT broadcast.com, statbroadcast.com. They have like the only thing you got to do is filter it because they'll have like go to today's events at the top, and then they will have pretty much every college team that played a game today that had stats. So now that spring sports have started, you're going to see every freaking team in the book under there. 3 weeks ago, it was just basketball. You'd have to maybe scroll down on the team's page and differentiate between the men's basketball and the women's basketball. Now I'm trying to go through and there's like soccer and lacrosse and baseball and softball and every damn sport under the sun that's got stats on there for today. But it's not that big a deal. The only thing that was an issue today, for whatever reason, it's the first time I've had it happen all year, and that's why I said it's funny you asked me what site it was. They do not have the stats on there today from today's San Jose State Grand Canyon game. And since I'm not going to talk about that one either, let me just show this quickly. As Grand Canyon won 94-79, I brought the ESPN box. And the only reason I did that is because I wanted to show this. This is absolutely remarkable, okay, is that San Jose State played 6 guys for the entire game, okay? And the dude off the bench, the 6th man, fouled out in 18 minutes, and he still didn't or couldn't use anybody else, right? Now, Washington was out. Godardi was in. Hannah, Myers was in. Roseboro, Maundi, another guy. Like, I can't believe that we're in a day and age of college basketball today where the scholarship numbers are increased and you're only playing 6 guys in a game you lose by 15. It's not like this was a 2-point game, right? Like it was close for a half. I read through the play-by-play that, GCU went on a run early. The Spartans went on a big run in the middle of the half. GCU closed the half strong, and then they pulled away in the second half because everybody's playing 40 minutes for San Jose. They got a guy playing 40, 39, 38, and 36 minutes. I mean, it's just, I don't understand what is happening there with those guys. Nobody really bothers to check on it really because they don't have a lot of people covering them or caring because it is what it is there. But man, like, I don't understand that. San Diego State has 11 guys they could put on the floor. Same with Utah State. Okay. Nevada's probably close to that, even though I don't think that some of those guys are up to snuff. Alford continues to give a lot of those guys minutes. And here's Tim Miles. He can't even play he can't even play more than 6 guys. I don't understand that. Paulie, Aztecs bench outscored Nevada's bench 30-9. Interesting. And it's, Alford played 12 guys in the box score today. Now, I will say that Walker played 6 minutes, TR 8, Robinson 6, Coleman 5, and White 6. So really 7 guys got double-figure minutes. But it's as rare as it is to play to have a team play 6 guys. It's almost as rare to have a team play 12 guys, like in a competitive game. Like, this wasn't a clear the benches and put the scrubs in. This was a competitive game, and they played 12 guys. That's difficult to do, man. Like, I just don't, you can't do that. I don't think you can do that. I mean, I don't know that, I don't want to say that somebody's getting shorted minutes here, because Price and Camper both played 34. Lowry and Weems were in the 20s. Comer, who wasn't good today at all, played 25. Armo Trading made a couple plays in there. He played 10 minutes. I just think it's difficult to play 12 guys. I just do. I'm not, I don't know. And this is 2 years in a row now, to be honest, that Alford's had issues with his rotation. Last year was not a very good year for the Pack, but there were issues like with Alford playing those, and even among the fan base, why is he playing this guy? And why is he playing this guy? And why is he not playing this guy? We heard all after the season that there were issues with the guys in the NIL and stuff, but you're the coach, like, you're in charge of that stuff. Why are you playing? So I don't know why he's playing all these guys. I'm not sure about all that. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a crapshoot 5 through 8. Okay. Let's see. So Nathaniel, I will address that right now because we're going to move on. Look, last thing on this game here. Yeah, I think you're probably right, Mike. Most teams are going to make a run. And that's why I said give credit to Nevada for that 4-minute burst there at the start of the half, as opposed to kind of knocking the Aztecs. It wasn't their best 4 minutes, but over a 40-minute game, you're very rarely going to play at your peak for 40 minutes. So give the opponent some credit there. San Diego State was very good with the exception of those first 3 minutes. So, I'm all right with that. The Aztecs D showed up, Guath making threes, blocking shots, with Harrington, they're the team to beat. It's interesting because this is the second or third time in the last few weeks now that we've had these two top guns playing like back-to-back or at the same time or a little bit staggered on a night. And I've been able to kind of in my mind compare them, see what I think about them. And, I want to – my first thought is to say, well, Utah State higher ceiling, but then it's like, I don't know if you're going to get that Guath moving forward. Like, look at, you don't even get anything out of Bird, and we don't even really expect anything out of Bird now offensively. And they still are winning comfortably against good teams here, like they did tonight. So, like, if there's ever a game where Bird shows up and gets 18, he did it like once in the last month. I don't even remember who it was against anymore. It might have been the UNLV game at the Thomas and Mack. But if you get that on like a given night, like, it's going to be incredibly difficult to beat this team. Now, I don't expect it to happen, but if they can keep Guath at this level for the next few weeks, right, like, they will be tough to beat. And I fully expect them, even though I do sort of believe, and it may be like 52-48 or 55-45 or whatever. I think I slightly think on a neutral, it would only be one game. And odds are they won't even play. Like, somebody will upset one of them in the semis or whatever will happen. But if they play in the final on a neutral, I would give the slightest of slight edges to Utah State right now, I think. Although, when they play at Viejas in a week and a half, I fully expect the Aztecs to win by 10, okay? So, I don't – there's no clear-cut number one here for me. There's just not. They're both very good. I know Utah State's metrics are higher, and we will certainly talk about that right now. Okay. Yeah, they might be one of the worst, if you don't watch the low conferences, the Southland, the OVC, the MEAC, the SWAC, the ASUN, you don't see teams this bad unless they come to play our teams in a non-con, and you don't really pay attention. I don't know if the Air Force games go over. It's likely because they don't play any defense. That's for sure. You got it, Nathaniel. What did I want to do? Okay, so Guath was plus 22. Yeah, so the split box that I have doesn't list them. I have to go to the side individual teams boxes to find a plus minus. I usually do that the next day. That's impressive, plus 22. You certainly take that. Okay, now let's talk about kind of the hot button topic that came out of tonight, and that was the end of the game in Logan. First, let's just talk about the game for a few minutes. Don't need to spend a ton of time on it. It's crazy. And this is what leads me to think slightly that Utah State just has that extra half gear that the Aztecs did. Now, the Aztecs could shut me up real quick because they went on that 11-0 run responding to Nevada's burst to tie it just like that and go up 11, and the game was over from there. But, the first 15, 16 minutes of tonight, it was a competitive game. Memphis has players. I compared them to UNLV, and I mean that, and it's both a compliment and like a knock at the same time, right? Like they have players, they have talent, they can certainly beat teams, but yet they just can't play consistently enough. Now, this is not one of their better teams, not one of their most talented teams, but they still have like power 4 guys that have, Doug McDaniel, he played at Michigan last year, right? Now, I don't think they won them this year because they're one of the top 5 teams in the country, but he played at Michigan last year. They have other guys that have come from, I think they have a guy from Illinois. They have a guy from, Bradshaw, the center. I watched him in high school come to my area a few times. He played he was a Kentucky recruit for Calipari. Like they have pedigree and guys that have played at the P4 level, right? So it's whatever reason, maybe it's not meshing. I don't know. It's not one of his better teams. I've never thought Penny, and I'm not alone in this, I've never thought Penny was a good X and O coach, okay? He's more like an NBA coach. He lets his guys ISO. They shoot more mid-range jumpers than most teams today because it's like an NBA system. They don't fire as many threes up, which I actually like because I hate when that's all that teams do. They don't seem to have the shooters for it this year, but they're long. They can get after you defensively when they choose to. And for 15 or 16 minutes tonight, the Aggies were launching a lot of threes. And I think that was in the mold of what San Diego State forces you to do defensively. The Aggies were having difficulty penetrating, getting to the rim, attacking, doing what they do in transition, and they were having to settle for a lot of deep threes, okay? Memphis hangs around. They make a couple shots. They get a couple rebounds. They make an athletic play here and there, and we're on the seesaw, 1-point game both ways for a few minutes. And then just like that, man, they just erupted. They shifted into another gear, and they're up 14 at the half. I have no idea how. Like Perryman had a couple fantastic passes on the break. Memphis got a little sloppy. Templin was feeling it and fires in a 3. Somebody else knocked one down, and maybe it was Collins. I don't even remember anymore. And they just like that go on a huge run. Penny just stands there, doesn't want to call timeout. It's like, what are you doing? And at 14, then the game's not over, but certainly you feel a lot better as an Aggie fan. Now, second half comes, and I think maybe Memphis in the first few minutes cut it down to like 10, but then just too much. Like Utah State's a better basketball team. The crowd was into it. They're at home. Memphis, this is why they're a 500 team. They can't sustain it for 40 minutes against good competition. And so, don't worry, Dowan. That's what I'm going to talk about here. And I got a lot of angles in this. So Dowan says a lot of complaints from the Memphis coaching staff about the 2 dunks in the last few seconds of the game. I know it's an unwritten rule, so I understand the frustration. Calhoun talked about the metrics, how you can't waste free buckets. Yeah. So I have plenty of takes in this, and I'll get to it in a second. So Aggie says a 40-minute game, Memphis guys at the end were trying to pad their stats. So that's what you get. So it's funny. By that point in the game, right, like I'm not really dialed into what's happening, right? There's like a minute and a half left. I'm kind of pissed because, they called so many fouls and the game took like 2 hours and 10 minutes in a blowout. Like I'm going to miss the first couple minutes. Technically I could go to the Bandit like stream link that CBS Sports puts out when all their games are inevitably delayed. And so I didn't feel like going to it because, I'm laying on a couch. I'm trying to just wait for this game to be over so the other one can come on. So I wasn't completely paying attention to what was happening on the floor for the last 2 minutes, right? Just hoping it gets over with. Then I realize that Utah State still had their starters in, and it had gotten down to like 17 or maybe even 16. I think it was actually 15, and because somebody hit a 3 and the announcer said that should do it, and it put it up 18 with like 2 minutes left. So that's all fine, right? So I said this earlier. There's a difference from playing for 40 minutes to what happened in the last 30 seconds, okay? And I mean, I guess this will sound, I like part of me wants to say, well, I don't want to knock Utah State, but then it kind of is a knock on them. Now, I will address all different angles of this because I have like 10 different ways to come at this here, okay? Like there's a difference from playing hard for 40 minutes to what happened in the last 22 seconds then, right? Because whatever happened, I think it was King first who got a steal or a loose ball at near midcourt with like 20 seconds left. So he crosses midcourt with 18 seconds left, had a clear path to the basket. So there's nobody in front of him, right? So obviously he can go in and dunk it. Now, most players, most coaches, and most players in that instant are just they're dribbling it out, okay? The coaches will tell the players, but the players also know to do that, right? Like, just let me finish all my thoughts before you attack me for my take on this, okay? Because I understand that there's more to it than just that, right? It's just like you grow up playing a certain way, unless you're like you grow up, not learning how to win with grace and lose with grace, right? And like most players dribble it out there, okay? So I wasn't fond of Calhoun like waving like King in to dunk it like a third base coach waving his guy home, okay? So that's that, right? And then I don't even remember, maybe they fouled and Memphis missed a free throw or Memphis missed a shot and they get another leak out and another dunk. So like and then of course, so now I'm completely like dialed into what's going on here. This is stuff I live for, right? Like I don't care what happens in the last minute of a game of a blowout until something good happens. Like this is the stuff I want to watch, right? So I can talk about it because this stuff interests me, right? How are the other guys going to respond? How Calhoun was kind of quick to like get through the handshake line, right? I think part of him felt guilty, and I'll talk about what he said in his presser in a minute. Like he was already like past the scores table to kind of go get Penny. And so, because the announcer, and I don't even remember who it was anymore, said, this could make for an interesting handshake line because he knows that it's a little bit like, kind of, I don't know what term you want to use. I don't want to call it shady. I don't want to call it dirty. It's a little icky. It's a little icky. I think Calhoun knew it was a little icky, and so he wanted to get out of there, right? So Penny couldn't really address it with Calhoun, but then, like as he makes his way down the line, you could pretty much see him to multiple coaches, and I didn't really even focus on the assistants, like that's BS, like full word. I don't want to say it on here, but that's like BS, like shaking his head and maybe even like saying it to some of the other players too. Okay. Maybe the ones who I don't know. Right. And so, some of the feedback I got, and I haven't looked in a while because once I started paying attention to the San Diego State game, I kind of dropped it, and I'll look at it later. Some of the feedback was, well, that Hardaway's a scumbag, and we're not gonna, I don't feel bad for Hardaway because he did this, and he's this, and he's this, and he's this. That argument doesn't hold any water because now it's like circumstantial. Like, so you're all right, like being a blank because the other guy's a blank, but you wouldn't do it to like somebody who has class. Like, that's not what happened here. I don't like that anyway. Two wrongs don't make a right. Like, has Hardaway done things in the past that whatever person in his personal life? Yes. Has he run a 100% clean program at Memphis? It doesn't seem that way, right? I don't know that he has any instances, and I could be wrong because I don't follow Memphis completely. I don't think he has a massive track record of poor sportsmanship and things like that. He's a little aloof. Again, he's not exactly John Wooden, right? He knows how to recruit guys. I don't think he knows how to coach them in the college game. He may get canned in a month. Maybe he'll just leave. I have no idea. I don't think he's a super coach, but I don't think he does like goofy stuff either. Okay. So like, has he done stuff in his past? Apparently, and that's fine. It's not great, but like, that's not a reason to go do that. Okay. Now, Calhoun, as Dallin said, and as somebody else said that I had, talked to on social media when I said about it, basically alluded to the fact that it's the way the system is set up these days. So part of my issue is with the system. Okay. Like it's not okay, right? This should not be encouraged. Like, so it's like when you play in AU tournaments or whatever it is, right? Like there's a cap on your margin of victory to discourage this type of stuff from happening. Okay. You win by 15. It's the same as winning by 35 because like we're not going to run it up and encourage poor sportsmanship. Okay. Now I get it, right? You play 40 minutes, you play to the whistle. Somebody else said, well, if you don't like it, then either stop them and play defense or win the game, and you don't have to worry about it, right? And it made me think of a guy at my very first coaching job in high school. I took a job at a very good athletic Catholic school in my area. They were one of the best athletic programs in the area. Their football coach was fantastic, multiple time state championship winner, coached multiple Division I athletes. One of my buddies played for him who watches the show, so shout out Danny. But he gave 0 F's about other people's feelings, right? He is famous for his quotes and just didn't care that people thought he was running up. He won a game at one point. It was 65-0. They scored to go up 63-0, and he went for 2. And I think he did it because he didn't have, I don't know, something with the kicker or what the story was. I don't know, but he didn't care, right? And his argument always was, well, if you don't like it, why don't you stop it, right? But he took a lot of grief for that. Now, he didn't care, okay? And his supporters didn't care either, but it led to the breakup of a league in my area because the other schools didn't appreciate the sportsmanship aspect of it. Okay. And proponents of him and his team would laugh and just say, screw you, whatever. And it was a joke. Right. And they went and played a national schedule and all this stuff. But my point is that argument holds water to an extent, right? I get it. With 2 minutes left, play defense and stop them. But when you're in a situation where you have less than 30 seconds left and you can dribble the clock out, I don't see any need to go in and get an extra 2 points. Now, it turned out to be an extra 4 points, okay? I just don't see it. And I will add this too. It certainly may not matter on 2 fronts. One, as I said earlier, Penny, he might be gone. So who knows? Obviously, we all know Calhoun may be gone. All right. Hopefully he's there. He may be gone. Most of the players, the way the transfer portal is today, may turn over. So there might be 2 total players on both teams that are there next year, but they play in Memphis next year, right? I don't know when. I don't know if it's a mid-season, late season game like this one is, but it's going to be at Memphis. And if assuming that they bounce back, because the last time they showed the graphic and Penny's made it, he's not going to make it this year, but he's made a tournament 3 of the last 4 years. And the last time he didn't make it, the year after, which was last year, they got a 5 seed. Now they got smoked in the first round by Colorado State, but they were a 5 seed. Okay. So if he has a talented roster next year, you can bet your ass that when the Aggies go to Logan, that's going to be drilled into them. Now, does it mean that they can't go down there and win? Of course it doesn't. But I just don't believe that you need to give extra fuel for things like that. I just don't. Okay. Because I can see it now. And some of you are going to be like, well, we'll worry about next year when we get to next year. Look, as a coach, that's the stuff that I think of. Okay. So that's my view on it. I understand that partially to blame is the system, that we rely on these freaking metrics for everything, and it's encouraged. I do think that Calhoun felt gross about it, and that's why he kind of wanted to get out of Dodge and get through the handshake line. But regardless, I just don't think it belongs in competitive sports. I don't, right? You win with grace and you lose that way too. Okay. So, I would have said that no matter who it is, it has zero to do with the individuals or the program or anything like that. I've always been an old school guy when it comes to that stuff. And I know things are different now and whatever. And some people might think, it is what it is. You do this, you do that. I get it, but that's just the way I am. So, disagree if you want, that's fine. I've been disagreed with before. Sometimes I'm in the minority on thoughts and it's all good. So let me cycle through here because I saw some comments buzzing in as I was going through that little tangent there. So Aztecs in the pit, 11 a.m. Pacific, noon in New Mexico, early start. Yeah, they seem to do that every year when they get that game on. I don't know why they don't just show it in the middle of the afternoon. So Ward B says anybody in Calhoun and Utah State's position should and would do the same thing. They're a bubble team, got to pad the stats, not a question of class. And, there's an element of truth to that. 100%. There is. Like, I get it. I don't know, like, how much one bucket. Now, again, it turned out to be two, but when he waved King around third to go slide in at home and dunk the ball, he's expecting it to be 2 points. Like, how much is that 2 points really going to matter? You already won the game by 20. I think the spread was like 14. My gambling buddy in here said last night. So you already covered the point spread with ease. So your metrics are already going to improve. How much are you going to get from 2 more points in the metrics? To me, it's not worth it. I get your arguments, not just you, War Beast, but everybody. I respect all of them. I just disagree with them. Dallin says, I agree. I'm an Aggie fan, but I didn't really like the decision. 4 points should make a huge difference in the metrics. That's exactly what I was just saying. Just run out the clock. And it's funny because here's what I wanted to say too. I had too many thoughts on it and I couldn't remember all of them. But the funny thing is, when I posted that comment right after the game, I basically just put the score. I didn't really need to add anything about the game because the Aggies coasted in the second half. They looked great. And then I said Penny didn't seem to appreciate that Calhoun playing the metrics game. Okay. And all of the comments came from Aggie backers. Okay. So I was curious what non-Aggie fans thought about it, right? Because everybody, and maybe they have now, I just haven't looked at my Twitter in the last hour and a half, but I'm curious what fans of other programs would think about that. Or conversely, if you're an Aggie fan and your program probably will never get to that stage, but let's just say you lay an egg and you're down by 19 at Viejas, and the Aztecs do that to you in the last 30 seconds. I'm pretty sure many of you would be crying, bloody murder, right? You don't like to see it. You don't like to see it. Now, there's 10% of us that have that, edge to us, like Stemmy, my buddy, the football coach, and he just kind of laugh at it and say, well, we deserve it. And so, okay, there's a small portion of you that would say that. But by and large, it just leaves you feeling kind of like gross the way that it plays out, because everybody knows that it doesn't belong in sports. When your head coach kind of scoots out of there and then has to mention it in the press conference, he feels guilty about it, right? He's doing what's best, what he feels is best for his program, and I don't blame him in that sense, okay? But again, I didn't even say a word about the fact that he had his starters in for the entire game. Like, some guys would have cleared. You don't have to clear the bench. You don't have to put Barnes and Kearney and some of those other guys in, but you could have had not all those guys needed to be in the game, okay? But I was curious what non-Aggie fans would think of that, because the only people that came shouting at me that no, Hardaway's a scumbag and we need every metric point we can get, they were Utah State fans. So I was curious where non-Utah State fans fell on that, and I appreciate Dallin's objectivity as an Aggie fan to say I didn't like it either, because this basically turns into a political conversation or a conversation about officials, where if it's your team, well, then you got screwed, and if it's the other team, it was a good call, right? And I hate those type of things. I like to hear people being objective about it, okay? Yeah, they're certainly not on the bubble as of now, Miguel. But, if they drop a game they shouldn't drop, forget about the game at Viejas. But if they lose the home game to New Mexico, or they lose at Nevada, and they lose in the semifinals of the conference tournament, who knows? Okay, so yeah, see, I don't remember that background, Nathaniel, with Penny tampering and Acott. Got it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's certainly not above board for all of that stuff. And so Bronco fans don't like Penny because of that. Yeah, I get it. He's certainly not a model citizen, right? And I agree with that. It's certainly Memphis' fault. I talked about this last night. This was not what Utah State signed up for. Somebody else did say that, and I think there's probably a small element of truth to that. It was a very physical game. It got slightly chippy, not over the top chippy, slightly chippy. There was some jawing going on. And somebody had said, well, you know what? That was just kind of a, screw you. Like, we're better. You can chirp all you want, but we're going to put you away and show you who the better team was. And Calhoun just said, go ahead and finish it and flush it. And maybe he was okay with that for that reason, and then felt a little gross about the second one, but it is what it is regardless. I agree that the metrics, Nathaniel, need to be reevaluated. Leon wanted to use a bench against lower opponent, but yeah. Oh, Leon's been a guy who's used that to his advantage for a long time. Yeah, I don't know, Aggie. What did they do on that possession before the King steal and dunk? I know the second one, they obviously took a shot, and that led to the second dunk. Again, this is where I wasn't fully paying attention before to see what Memphis was doing. And coaches might be different too. You would say the same thing if the Aggies were on the other end. Okay. I will say that, yeah, I agree, Mike. I don't like the metrics doing all that stuff anyway. But most, and I'll drop it after this. I think most times it's like kind of, I don't know, like when I was coaching, I guess it would kind of be like your job as a losing coach to kind of sub your guys out first and kind of wave the white flag. And then that gives the opposing coach kind of the signal that, hey, let's clear your bench. And so I don't know Memphis's personnel well enough to know who was in and if their starters were in or not. But if he had his starters out, then whatever. Okay. You guys have heard my feelings on it for long enough, but that was obviously like a major talking point. And when you have 5 games today and all 5 are double figure margins of victory, you need something to talk about beyond just the play. And so that's kind of where we ended with that. So, all right. Anyway, let's talk about the border war for a minute. As I said, I didn't see the other 2 midday games, and there was no need to watch them anyway. So for a minute, let's talk about the border war. I watched the first half. Wyoming 40-37 lead. I thought Colorado State was pretty soft, and I heard that from a couple other people too. I thought they were pretty poor defensively in the first half. Wyoming shorthanded. This is a game, speaking of, I'd mentioned this with the, Penny giving or Utah State giving Penny and Memphis some, I don't know if you want to call it bulletin board material, but some ammo for next year with this at the end of the game here. I think like Sundance did the same thing at the end of the border war a few weeks ago, and the Rams took notice. And I don't think they appreciated some of the comments and some of the other things that happened after the game. Now, does Wyoming care about that? Of course not. These two teams it's like a divorce. They're parting ways at the end of the year. They're not going to be in the same conference. Even if they continue to play, I'm sure like the rivalry in some sense will slightly deteriorate. I know fans of those teams might not want to think that right now, but it's what happens. Like Oklahoma State, same thing. I'm sure there's others that fit the bill. It's difficult to maintain when you don't play at the same extent that you used to, and they're not going to. So, I don't really think that Wyoming cares that CSU was bothered. They beat them in their last game and as conference foes at home. And, they rubbed it in a little bit. And so I expected a focused 40-minute effort here from the Rams today. It did not seem that way for 20 minutes. And then rifling through the play-by-play in the second half, they got down by 10, 5-6 minutes into the second half too. And then I guess their defense really kind of clamped it down, because Wyoming scored, I think, 4 points in the last 8 minutes of the game. They were on 64. They had a 64 to maybe 59 leadish at the under 8 or with 7 and change to go. And they ended the game with 68. So probably 2 things. The fact that Wyoming not very deep right now. They also don't have a plethora of shot makers and scorers to begin with. I'll put the stats up here for a minute, but you have to give some credit defensively to the Rams as well. If we're going to rip them for poor defense at times, you got to give them credit. So, I mean, but here you go as you see the trend, and I won't know for sure unless you watch it, but they make 1 of their last 15 field goal attempts. I mean, that's horrendous. Look at this here. I saw this earlier. I couldn't believe this. What's highlighted here, field goal attempts in this game. Wyoming took 27 more field shots from the field than Colorado State did. So I don't think there's been many cases in college basketball nationwide this year where one team has taken 27 more shots from the field and lost the game by double figures. Well, how do you even take 27 more shots? Well, I'll tell you how. For one thing, your opponent shoots 30 free throws. Now, 4 of them were in the last minute because I looked it up, but that leaves 26 in the first 39 minutes, which is an awful lot. You also only turn it over 5 times, so you don't lose shots there, and you grab 13 offensive rebounds at 3 for your opponent. So that's how you get a lot more shots. The problem is they only made 41%, and Colorado State made 62%. So that's kind of your ball game right there. They went blind at the wrong time. Credit the Rams for cranking it up. And, they get the win that they wanted. They probably felt that this was one that, that they really wanted. I hate to say like that they don't care about the rest of their games, but before today, if they had one game the rest of the season that they wanted to check off as a W, it was likely this one, and they got it. I guess there's an outside chance. We'll have to see how things fall, that these two could play again in the 8-9 game, right? It's 7 through 10 seems like a crapshoot at this point, and with 6 games and 3 full weeks to go, I'm not going to sift through the tiebreakers yet. We'll worry about that after another week and a half when we're down to about 3 games, and we'll see. I don't know who has who left on the schedule or any of that stuff, but the potential exists for them to play in either the 7-10 or the 8-9 game. So that will be an interesting rubber match. But look, both teams won their home games by double figures. Good effort by the Rams here. You got some good minutes again. Muniz again off the bench, 15, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. He played 36 minutes. So at this point, it's probably just a formality for Ali to have, that to keep him coming off the bench. And if he played 36 minutes, he didn't play the first 4 minutes. Ali subbed him and McIver in together a few minutes into the game. So then, to me, he played every minute the rest of the game. And I've said for a while, I don't know why he's not starting, but if he's playing 36 minutes, I don't think it really matters. That's starter minutes. Bemba 14 and 8, Rex Steiner 11, Butler, very good game, 18 and 6 assists. Very nice job for him. Dennis with 21. He's played better than probably anybody for that Wyoming team over the last couple of weeks. He's played really well. Bennett with 13 and 9. He's been solid too. But look, that was a home team game, right? They could play a 7-game NBA series and it would go 7 games and the home team would win all 7 games. I just think that's what those two teams are this year. Is that right, Cam? Pasquarelli got hurt. So it looks he played 8 minutes. Wow. Did he get, so he got hurt in the first half. I had it on. Maybe I didn't have the volume on, or I wasn't paying close enough attention to notice that he got hurt. So we'll have to see what his status is. That would obviously explain why Muniz got all those minutes. Nevada has never won at Viejas. And you want to schedule them for the automatic W. Yeah, I don't, he was in a boot for the second half. Yeah, that's no good. The fact is he has not been playing well lately. And when I say he's not playing well, let's face it, he's I don't want to call him a one-trick pony, but he's out there mostly to shoot the ball. And if he's not shooting the ball well, he doesn't add a whole lot aside from that. But you'd still like to have him. He's a threat. He could get going. He's a guy who, if he starts making shots the way he did 2 months ago, you become a more dangerous team, and he decreases your depth if he's out. So clearly, if he's in a boot, I wouldn't expect them to play this coming week, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see how that goes. So, all right, speaking of that, let me I wanted to look up the Tuesday games, because again, the Wednesday games are obviously better. It was a doubleheader, and I'm pretty sure one of the Wednesday games is Utah State and Boise in Logan. So we know what Boise's been up to lately. So that has the potential to not be very close. It certainly wasn't close when they played at Boise, but Boise at Utah State and Colorado State at UNLV, that's a very interesting game too, for several reasons, seeding purposes, and UNLV's trending up. Let's see if they can keep it going. They lost in Fort Collins way back at the start of conference play. So that leaves the following 4 games for Tuesday, and I'll read the times off and what we got for TV purposes too. So 9 Eastern, Mountain West Network, 7 Mountain Time, Air Force at New Mexico, I mean, obviously, we all know what that's going to. Oh wait, I skipped. I'm sorry. The first game was Fresno at Wyoming. I didn't see that on there. Fresno at Wyoming, 8:30 Eastern, 6:30 local there in the Mountain Time Zone on the Mountain West Network. Interesting game. Fresno won this game when they played at Fresno a month-ish ago. So here's Wyoming's turn to turn the tables. How do they bounce back after losing to their rival, not giving really their best effort in the second half? Is it possible that Gores comes back or somebody else, because Sundance could use a guy or two back, especially Gores? Then we got the Air Force New Mexico game. I mean, that I can't only imagine what that point spread is going to be. Maybe 28-30. I mean, I have no idea. That's a name your score one right there. Like, speaking of running it up, that's a name your score. And then the last two, both at 10 Eastern. The first one at Nevada at San Jose State. I mean, listen, who knows what you're going to get out of San Jose State again? Like, Miles may have to play roulette and see who. Maybe he only has like 6 or 7 uniforms. Maybe that's the issue. Like, he can't suit more guys up because they don't have any uniforms. I guess that's possible. But with the roster that he put out there today, they won't be competitive in this game. Nevada's going to have to have their head on straight after losing tonight. And then on the weekend coming up, they have Utah State at home. So they'll be looking ahead to that one. Hopefully they come with a focused effort and don't make this one a sweat down a stretch. They're obviously in trouble for postseason bid in the NCAA tournament, but they're still playing for seeding and other purposes too. And then, of course, the big one, CBS Sportsnet, 10 Eastern, 8 Pacific, 8 Mountain, 7 local there at Viejas, is Grand Canyon at San Diego State. So the big revenge game. I know Aztec fans have been waiting for this one for the better part of a month now, ever since that whistle with a second left or whatever it was that put Williams on the line to make 2 free throws and beat the Aztecs. So they want a little bit of revenge. I don't blame them. I don't think their 15-point win at San Jose State today, a 6-man AAU outfit San Jose State team, that doesn't really move the needle for me. I don't think they've played well the last couple of weeks. I think that, as somebody pointed out last night on here, which was a great observation, they seem to have hit the Mountain West wall, right? They did not play a grueling conference schedule week in and week out the last few years in their conference. They just didn't. It is what it is, okay? And so it's one thing to go through a week of that or 2 weeks of that like they did, playing very good. It's another thing to keep it up for 10 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever. And I think they hit a little bit of a lull in a wall right there. And with the Aztecs out for blood on Tuesday, I don't see how they don't win that game, similar to tonight, right? I mean, I'm not saying they'll win by 18, but that should be a double-figure win or at least close to it for San Diego State. I mean, GCU is going to very similar to Nevada. They're going to struggle to score in a half court. They're not going to shoot the ball well on the road against suffocating defense. And I think you get an A-plus effort out of San Diego State. They're not that GCU won't play hard or bring a good effort, but they're not as talented. And on the road against a team that's engaged, you just need everything to go your way. And I don't think that will work out for them. We'll see. And then, like I said, the 2 on Wednesday. So Tuesday will be no problem for the show with no Boise on the docket. And then on Wednesday, I think the Boise game is a half an hour before the CSU UNLV game. So I should be able to come on a little bit after that one ends because BJ should probably be done a little bit after that CSU UNLV game ends. Because let's face it, we all know the UNLV game will run like 20 minutes later with fouls or overtime or some type of shenanigans. So, that's that. Okay. Let's wrap this guy up here. I'll scroll through a few more comments. I'm going to shout out Sun Cruiser one more time. Hopefully some of you guys have tried. I know a few of you had because I heard from you guys about it, and I appreciate you doing that. Go get yourself some Sun Cruiser, and I see it scrolling right here on the bottom line. Go subscribe if you haven't already at Mountain West BNN, at Mountain West BNN. 105-48. I don't know. We'll have to see. That's pretty extreme, but it could easily be a 40-point. I can't stress enough. They lost by 30 tonight to Fresno without Hydrator. Like I can't even. How do you give up 96 without Fresno's 2 best shooters is beyond me. Yeah, I don't know about that. Part of it's interesting. Like, I'm praising Camper before about how incredible he is running off screens. Not a lot of programs and offenses do what Alford does anymore. Everybody's ball screen heavy, and you just run stuff out of ball screens. You have to see how the defense will guard you, and you get stuff off of that. Alford doesn't do a whole lot of that. He runs guys off of screens, and when you're using ball screens, you don't run a lot of guys off screens because you have, depending on how the defenders guard you coming off the ball screen, you want your guys stationary so they can catch and shoot. And if you got guys running off of screens, that's not really going to jive. And so Alford prefers like off-ball screens, and Camper and other guys like Jared Lucas and et cetera. Last year, in theory, was Ducell, even though he didn't do well in that role, running off screens and catching and shooting. And he's an old school coach. Those guys are hard to adjust. They don't like breaking from their patterns, and it just is what it is. But there's no doubt they've struggled for offense largely in the last handful of years, maybe with the exception of that one Lucas and Blackshear year, and they had Davidson as a young guy and some other guys that could score the ball too. So, yeah, I get it. That's very frustrating. But all right, good night, good day, chalky day. Some interesting stuff then to talk about, even if you guys kind of disagree or got tired of the conversation or whatever. It got us some stuff to talk about. So let's wrap this one up. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Actually, a 3-day weekend here for some folks, for myself included. I'll enjoy that day off. Tuesday, 4 games, and then Wednesday, a doubleheader. So make sure you're coming back then to check it all out. Appreciate everybody in the comments here. That's what keeps the show going for as long as it does. That and the fact that I can't shut up, but that's what you're here for too. So appreciate everybody being in here. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to you soon here on another night in the Mountain West. See ya.